Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I think, first of all, I must say that this committee started off discussing a very serious issue, an issue of national security, issue of protecting Canadians, an issue where addressing the very serious matter where RCMP made allegations of murder, extortion, organized crime, intimidation, coercion by agents of the Indian government. And there was agreement by this committee to move forward and address that. And it's unfortunate that we have now gone into a place where we are discussing and debating issue of how the NDP and the Liberals are working together to cover up names of MPs, not wanting to release names of MPs who have not been working in the best interest of Canadians. Ms. May talked about how she cannot release those names, that she cannot release the names. She, in fact, cannot take any action based on the information that she has, because she's has taken that clearance and read the name. She has the information, but she cannot release the name. She cannot do anything with that information, and that is particularly the point. Receiving a secret briefing would, according to Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister's own Chief of Staff, Katie Telford, prevent a recipient from using the information in any manner. So essentially, that person who receives the briefing would not be able to use or do anything with that briefing. It is a gag order. It is not allowing that person to take any action, to discuss it with the information that they have. And then it goes on. She goes on to say, even where that it is not the case, briefing political parties on sensitive intelligence regarding an MP could put the leader or representative of a political party in a tough position, because any decision affecting the MP might have to be made without giving them due process. So that is why that this is a better situation. What would be the better situation is for the Prime Minister, because he brought this up at the Hogue Commission. He is the one that came out and said, yes, there are Liberals on that list and members from other parties on that list, and he should bring that information forward. He should bring it publicly. He should release those names. In that way, that political party leaders can take action that they see fit based on those names, based on that information. Because otherwise, as Ms. May herself has said, that you cannot take any action. You cannot discuss those names, and you cannot release them. And so, for that reason, that is a better way to go. And within the CSIS Act, there actually is provision to be able to give the leader of a party sensitive information, pertinent information, especially when it comes to the national security of the nation. So all of that process is available, and Justin Trudeau, as the Prime Minister, can give that information to any political leader, or he can release those names publicly. We would say release them publicly, because if there are members of Parliament who have been elected by Canadian citizens, by their electorate, and they are not working in the best interest of Canadians, then that information should be made public. That is the best way to deal with this. Canadians deserve to know who these people are. And getting back to the situation that we originally were dealing with, we were on foreign interference, and this is, coming out of that, is that on foreign interference there are a number of steps that could have been taken to protect Canadians. And it is unfortunate that we are now on this very serious issue of foreign interference, that we are now we are discussing the NDP and the Liberals playing political games when we should be discussing how we can stop foreign interference. One of the allegations that the RCMP have made, very serious allegation against agents of the Indian government, is that they were taking part in extortion against Canadians. And we have heard in the last number of months, over a year now, where very serious cases of extortion are happening across the country. There have been shootings at homes. There have been homes that have been burnt down. Over a dozen brand new built homes in Edmonton were burnt down. There have been businesses that have been shot at. Some alleged to have been directed by international gangsters. These are issues that we should be looking at, that we should be debating. I brought forward a private member's bill, a Bill C-381, that would have given stricter penalties to anybody who takes part in extortion, mandatory minimum sentences to keep extortionists in jail longer, minimum penalties for at least 3 years if somebody commits extortion, 4 years mandatory minimum sentence if somebody was to commit extortion using a firearm, and 5 years of mandatory minimum sentence for someone who would commit extortion in connection with organized crime. And this links back to exactly what the RCMP has alleged, that agents of the Indian government are working with organized crime in Canada, and particularly in a organized crime unit out of India, the Bishnoi Group, to extort Canadians here on Canadian soil. So that last provision of mandatory minimums convicting anyone that is involved in organized crime and extortion would get 5 years minimum, that is a minimum, to be in jail. Now, unfortunately, all of the NDP members in the House of Commons and Liberals voted against that bill. And it is unfortunate that when we talk about in this place about protecting Canadians and taking steps to ensure that Canadians are kept safe, that ensure that Canadians are able to express themselves freely, to have political opinions that are different than others, and to do so in a peaceful manner, that when solutions come forward, the Liberals and the NDP do not take action. They did not vote in favor of that bill. They essentially are saying that they're fine with not keeping extortionists in jail longer. And that, again, really speaks to how serious are they about addressing these issues. And that's, and even right now, the issue that we are dealing with right now goes along in the same manner that we should be discussing ways of stopping foreign interference from any country, including India, not looking at ways to make cheap political points, as they are doing right now. On the issue of a security clearance, the same day that the RCMP made these very serious allegations, the leader of the opposition, Pierre Poilievre, received a briefing from Canada's security agencies. So he received all the information. He got the same briefing that the leader of the NDP, Jagmeet Singh, got. So provisions are there to be able to give the leader of the opposition the information that is required without gagging him, without him not being able to speak about that information, not being able to take action against that information. And when it comes to the names of members of Parliament who have not been working in the interests of Canadians or colluding with a foreign nation, and this is actually an issue that the Prime Minister brought up. I know the Liberal member was saying that we should not raise to suggest that some members of Parliament in this place may be colluding with a foreign government or cast aspersions on other members of Parliament. It was actually the Prime Minister himself that did so. And those names can and should be released. Canadians deserve to know who those members of Parliament are. No other individual, whether it's a party leader, just like Elizabeth May herself has said, that she cannot release that information. Nobody else can do that, but the Prime Minister can. And if there is serious national security issues that the Leader of the Opposition should know, CSIS has the ability within the CSIS Act to provide that information to the Prime Minister, to the Leader of the Opposition, future Prime Minister, to ensure that he can take appropriate action. And so instead of going down this path of the NDP helping the Liberals cover up these names, of the NDP and the Liberals getting together to make these cheap political points, I think this committee should continue back with originally what we started off with, of dealing with the very serious issue of foreign interference, the very serious issue of Canadians being assassinated, murdered on Canadian soil, of extortion taking place across the country, organized crime being used by a foreign government, intimidation of Canadians, coercion of Canadians. This is a matter of our sovereignty, our democracy, and this committee now has, because of the NDP and the Liberals, has turned into trying to make cheap political points. And I would suggest that we get back to the very important issue. There are a number of questions that we have as Canadians that we should have. I mean, if the RCMP has alleged that a foreign gang is using gangsters in Canada and international gangsters to carry out the extortion and the other organized crime and intimidation, then how is it that those Canadians, that those people are in Canada? Why are those people in Canada? And also that through our National Task Force and other investigative efforts, the RCMP has obtained evidence that demonstrates for very, very serious issues. These are issues that we should be addressing here. Violent extremists impacting both countries. This is an issue that this committee should be looking into. Links tying agents of the government of India to homicides and violent acts that are happening here in Canada. There are the use of organized crime. Like I said, they're using, they are actually named an international gang to create perception of unsafe environment targeting the South Asian community in Canada. And interference in our democratic processes. Investigations have revealed that Indian diplomats and consular officials based in Canada leverage their official position to engage in clandestine activities. These are very, very serious issues. And I must say that these issues are very serious, but they're also ones that have been very difficult to speak to Canadians about. I've had a number of phone calls from members of the Sikh community and others from across the country, but also conversations that I've had to have with my children. They're old enough now to hear about information and hear news, and they're also concerned about what's happening in our country. I know, talk to many Canadians that say, it's not the same country. It's not the country that they came to, the country that has that safety and security. And after 9 years of this government, we are not as safe as many people used to believe, and as safe as people were. And there are a number of ways that information can be shared in order to protect Canadians. Because what the Prime Minister wants to do is to have our leader essentially be gagged, be sworn into secrecy, that he be provided some information, but then not be able to talk about it, not be able to tell Canadians about it, not be able to take any action on it. And the CSIS already has ways of providing that information to the leader. In fact, the Treasury Board Secretariat Policy on Government Security, there is provisions there where they can provide that information to the leader. Cabinet ministers and possibly privy councillors can be provided that information. There is the NSICOP committee that has been provided that information. And like I said before, there's the threat reduction measures, which is commonly known as TRM, under Section 12.1 of the CSIS Act, where this information can be provided to the Leader of the Opposition to be able to take action as appropriate. So I'll say that as for the names of MPs who have been possibly working or colluding with, knowingly or unknowingly, and the leaders of the different parties, because there are Liberals on that list. I believe the Prime Minister also said NDPs, but I know he specifically mentioned Conservatives to make that political point, but there are Liberals on that list as well, and the leaders of those parties, with that information, if provided, the information is provided properly, can take action as they see fit. I also think that the information should be provided publicly. And I think it's, like I've said, that it is important that we get back to the very important issue of foreign interference in this country. Let's drop this kind of attempt at making political points here in this committee and work at taking steps of protecting Canadians. Thank you, Mr. Chair.